The grocery store wasn't usually a place where emotions spilled over. People came in, grabbed what they needed, and rushed back out into their busy lives. But that morning, the bright aisle lights felt a little dimmer, the hum of the refrigerators a little louder, because a woman near the dairy section was quietly crying while trying to keep her little boy close. Elias noticed her before he even understood what he was seeing. He was scanning shelves for his usual items when the sound of a child's soft voice pulled his attention. A small boy tugged at the sleeve of a woman who looked like she hadn't slept in days. One hand wiped at her face. The other tried to keep her grocery list steady. She kept whispering, "Not now, baby. Please, not now." The boy nodded, as if he understood more than a child his age should have to. Elias wasn't great with strangers, especially emotional ones. He was the type who kept to himself, who avoided unnecessary conversations. But something about that moment stopped him. Maybe it was the way the woman tried to hide her tears. Maybe it was the boy's quiet patience. Or maybe it was because he had once watched his own mother break down in public. Hoping no one would notice, he stood there for a few seconds thinking. Then he walked away. He told himself it wasn't his business. People went through things all the time. Not every moment of sadness needed a witness. But as he moved down the aisle, the guilt grew heavy. He remembered how he had felt years ago, watching his mother cry in a crowded clinic. No one had stepped in then. No one had even asked if she needed help. Elias had been too young to do anything for her, but he never forgot that helplessness. He found himself turning around. The woman and her son were still there, both staring at a cart that held only 3 items: bread, a small pack of apples, and instant noodles. Elias took a slow breath and approached them. "Excuse me," he said gently. The woman jumped a little, catching her breath as if she had been dragged out of a nightmare. She wiped her cheeks fast. "I'm sorry," she said automatically, even though she had nothing to apologize for. "I didn't mean to block the aisle." "You're fine," he replied. "I just wanted to make sure you're all right." She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. "I'm fine. Just a rough morning." The boy watched Elias closely, his dark eyes curious but cautious. Elias nodded. "We all have those." He didn't push, didn't question. Instead, he looked at the items in her cart. "Is there anything I can help with?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "No, really, it's okay." But her voice trembled in a way that told him things weren't okay at all. Before he could think of what else to say, the little boy tugged on her sleeve. "Mom," the boy whispered, "we need milk." Her face tightened. "I know, honey, we'll find a cheaper one." It was such an ordinary sentence, yet it landed heavily in the space between them. Elias had grown up in a home where cheaper wasn't a choice, but a survival tactic. He knew the tone too well, the careful calculation, the fear of the total cost flashing on the register, the quiet dread of a card decline. He made a decision without giving himself a chance to overthink it. "Why don't I take care of your groceries today?" he said. Her eyes widened. "Oh no, I can't let you do that. It's really all right. I don't want to accept charity." She murmured, "It isn't charity," he said softly. "Just kindness." Then he added, "And I think everyone deserves a break sometimes." The woman covered her mouth with her fingers, not to hide tears this time, but because she was trying to hold herself together. After a long moment, she nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. "You have no idea how much this means." Elias smiled at the boy. "Mind if you help me pick out the best milk?" The boy lit up. "I choose the chocolate kind." His mother gave him a look. Elias chuckled. "We'll get both." Problem solved. They walked through the aisles together. The mother kept apologizing, then stopping herself, then apologizing again. Elias kept reassuring her that it was fine. Sometimes he let the boy choose snacks, watching his excitement grow with each decision. When they reached the checkout, Elias didn't flinch at the total. It wasn't small, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the way the woman exhaled in relief, as if someone had removed a heavy stone from her chest. Outside the store, she shifted the bags into her arms and said, "I'm Maya. This is my son. Jonah, I'm Elias. Nice to meet you both." She nodded. "It's been a really hard few months. I lost my job. I'm trying to manage everything on my own. Days like this, it just gets overwhelming." Elias didn't ask for details. He didn't need them, I get it, he said. Life hits all of us sometimes. Maya wiped her eyes again, but this time she was smiling. You showed up at the right moment. I'll never forget today. Jonah stepped forward, lifting his hand for a high five. Thank you for the milk. Elias bent down just enough to meet him. Anytime, buddy. Maya watched the exchange with a soft expression. I promise I'll pay this kindness forward someday. I hope you do, Elias said. That's how good things keep moving. She nodded, gave a final thankful smile, and walked toward the bus stop with her son's small hand wrapped around hers. Elias stood there for a minute, watching them go. He felt something shift inside him, a warmth he hadn't expected. The kind that came from knowing you made someone's day feel a little less heavy. He didn't tell anyone about what he'd done. He didn't post it online. The moment wasn't meant to be a story for attention. It was just a quiet act of goodness, the kind the world rarely saw, but desperately needed. Later that night, while cooking dinner, Elias thought about Maya and Jonah. He hoped things would get easier for them. He hoped the next stranger who saw someone struggling would stop, even for a second, to help. He remembered something his mother used to say whenever life felt too heavy. People don't always remember the words, but they always remember the moment someone made them feel seen. Today, he finally understood what she meant. And somewhere across town, a mother who had once cried in a grocery store was tucking her little boy into bed, with a full stomach and a lighter heart, all because a stranger noticed her tears and chose to be kind. A week passed, but the moment at the grocery store stayed with Maya. Every time she opened the fridge and saw the milk Jonah loved, she remembered the stranger who stepped in when she felt like she was falling apart. Life didn't magically get easier. Maya was still sending out job applications. The rent was still late, but something had changed. She didn't wake up feeling as hopeless as before. Some days, even that tiny shift was enough. One Tuesday morning, as she was walking Jonah to school, she passed the same grocery store. Her steps slowed. She didn't go inside. She simply stood there for a moment, remembering. She whispered a small prayer under her breath for the man named Elias, hoping life was being kind to him. Later that afternoon, after Jonah's school drop-off, she headed to a nearby office building for another job interview. Nothing fancy, just a receptionist position in a small logistics company. She didn't expect much, but she wore her best shirt and practiced her answers in her head the whole way there. The lobby was busy. Phones rang, people rushed by, and she stood at the front desk waiting for her turn. When the door to the manager's office opened, she froze. Elias stepped out. He was holding a folder, talking to another employee. He looked exactly as she remembered: calm face, steady presence, the person who had helped her without hesitation. Maya blinked, unsure if she was imagining it, but Elias noticed her a moment later. His expression shifted from mild surprise to recognition. Maya? She nodded, almost embarrassed, as if she shouldn't be there. I didn't expect to see you here, he said. I'm actually here for the receptionist interview, she replied. He blinked. Really? Yeah, they called me yesterday. Elias stepped aside and checked the clipboard at the desk. You're scheduled with Mr. Langston? That's what they told me. He nodded. I'm heading into that meeting next. I'll let him know you're here. Maya felt her pulse speed up. She didn't want him to think she was trying to use their grocery store encounter to get a job. She didn't want anyone to assume she was desperate for pity. Just to be clear, she said softly, I came on my own. I didn't know you work here. Elias smiled. I know, and don't worry. You're here because you earned an interview. A few minutes later, Mr. Langston, the company's operations manager, stepped out and called her in. The interview was straightforward. She answered each question honestly, without trying to sound perfect. She talked about her skills, her past work experience, and how she balanced life as a single mom. She didn't hide her struggles, but she didn't lean on them either. When she walked out, Elias was at the front desk again. How did it go? He asked. I think it went okay. Hard to tell. Well, he said, Langston isn't easily impressed. But you walked out smiling. That seems like a good sign. She let out a small laugh. Maybe, before she could leave, he called out her name again. Maya. I didn't get to say this properly before. I'm glad I ran into you again. She nodded. Me too. 3 days later, while washing dishes, her phone buzzed. Hello, is this Maya Thomas? Yes, speaking. This is Mr. Langston from Silverline Logistics. I'd like to offer you the receptionist position. Are you still interested? She nearly dropped the glass in her hand. Yes, she managed to say. Yes, I'm very interested. Great, you'll start Monday. Elias mentioned you were reliable and hardworking. I trust his judgment. Her breath caught. Elias? Her kindness from last week wasn't a one-way street after all. Monday morning, she walked Jonah to school, then headed to her first day at the office. She wore the same shirt from the interview, the only one that felt somewhat professional. She hoped no one would notice. When she entered the building, Elias was at the coffee machine. First day, he asked. She smiled. Looks like it. I'm glad you're here. Did you really tell Mr. Langston I was reliable? He shrugged slightly. I told him you handled a hard situation with grace. That's more valuable in an office than any technical skill. She wasn't sure her voice would stay steady if she spoke, so she just nodded. He handed her a fresh cup of coffee. Welcome to the team. Thank you, she said, meaning it in more ways than one. Over the next few weeks, Maya settled into her role. She greeted clients, organized schedules, handled phone calls, and slowly started to feel steady again. Elias passed by her desk often, not to hover, but to check if she needed anything or to share small updates about work. Sometimes they talked about Jonah. Sometimes they talked about life. Nothing heavy, nothing complicated, but the conversations felt easy. One evening, as they were leaving the office at the same time, it started to rain, hard. Maya didn't have an umbrella. She instinctively shielded her hair with her hands. Elias stepped beside her and held out his umbrella. Come on, he said. I'll walk you to the bus stop. She hesitated, not because she didn't want the help, but because she wasn't used to accepting it. You already helped me more than enough, she said quietly. Helping you doesn't feel like a burden. He replied, let me walk you. They shared the umbrella as they made their way down the street. The rain around them softened the world into a quiet blur. For the first time in a long time, Maya didn't feel like she was barely surviving, you know. She said after a moment, I told myself I'd pay your kindness forward one day. You already have. She looked at him, confused. How? You showed Jonah what gratitude looks like, he said. And you showed me how something small can matter more than you think. She felt her throat tighten, but not from sadness this time. At the bus stop, he stopped walking. I'm glad life crossed our paths again, he said. Me too. Get home safe. You too. Elias, as she climbed onto the bus, she glanced out the window. He was still there, holding the umbrella, watching to make sure she was seated before he headed back. She didn't know what this new chapter meant. She didn't know where it would lead. But she knew one thing for certain. Kindness had a way of coming back to you. Sometimes when you least expected it, and sometimes in the form of the same person who helped you on the day you thought the world had forgotten you. And for the first time in a long while, Maya felt hopeful about tomorrow. Thank you guys.